Going to hit record. Awesome. Well, welcome everyone. For those of you who are joining a Lighthouse Labs event or a Career Accelerator event for the first time, I just wanted to give you a brief introduction on who we are and why we're doing this. So essentially, Lighthouse Labs is a tech education company specializing in data and web development programs for people who want to pivot their careers into technology. On top of our industry-driven curriculum, we also offer career services to all of our bootcamp students to help them navigate careers and unexpected career interruptions. So to do so, we're leveraging 7+ years of experience helping people break into tech alongside industry partners on this Career Accelerator initiative. And today we're really excited to have our very own career services manager, Kelly, otherwise known as K-Fox here. Kelly has worked in every industry under the sun and has some really awesome career stories if you can get them out of her. And she has helped hundreds of our alumni and students launch their careers in tech. So I don't want to give a full introduction because I don't think I'll do your winding career justice. But I'll hand it over to you to introduce yourself, Kelly, but just a few housekeeping things first. Number one, we are recording, so if you do turn on your mic and camera, you may be recorded. And secondly, if you have any questions, we'll be monitoring the chat the whole time to make sure that they get answered at the end, but there will be time for Q&A at the end as well. So with that, I'm gonna hand it over to the professional. Kelly, take it away.
That may be the first time I've ever been called a professional. Thank you, Caroline. Well, my name is Kelly, aka K-Fox, but you can call me Hey You or whatever you like. I will respond. A little bit about me. I'll try to keep it concise, as Caroline said. My career history is quite colorful. I started college, undergrad, pre-med, failed every single class but one, so decided my major was going to be English because it's the one class I did not fail. Got a bachelor's in creative writing and then graduated and had no idea what the heck to do with a bachelor's degree in creative writing. I could have used a career counselor at that point, but then I grabbed a Master of Business Administration. I went into the corporate world. And what we're talking about today, career values, the corporate world did not match at all my own career values, but I did not understand what that meant at the time. It drove me to go back to school for counseling. And I found out that there was an actual methodology to making career decisions and how to find your way in the world of work and pave yourself a path that matches who you are as a person and gives you that job satisfaction that I'd been looking for. So that's kind of what led me here. I'm from the States, full disclosure. I decided to move to Canada because why would I not want to live in the gorgeous city of Vancouver? And I found Lighthouse Labs kind of by accident, and it was a nice combination of my own career values, and we're going to talk about that and what that means. But I am a registered clinical counselor in Vancouver, and I am the career services manager at Lighthouse Labs. And I'm very, very passionate about helping people find the right job for them in a myriad of different ways. How do you pave your career path and get yourself to a place where you're going to work every day excited, rather than what I hear a lot is the waking up in the morning to the alarm and thinking of the 10,000 reasons why you should call into work today. We want to avoid that. So I was super stoked when Caroline asked me if I wanted to host an event, what we're doing today, about career values, because I think it's one of the most underutilized and not talked about facets of career counseling and career advising. So there's a lot of career coaches out there that can help you with your interview skills and your resume and things like that. But the actual piece, the counseling piece, is what I want to talk about today, and specifically career values. So at Lighthouse, we operate, I'm the co-host now. Thank you, Caroline. At Lighthouse, we operate under a career theory called the cognitive information processing theory. And I just wanted to give you a little overview of what that looks like before we zero in on the one piece that today's event is all about. So let me share my screen. And this is something that's embedded in all of our workshops here at Lighthouse, but it's actually utilized all over the world as the most prominent career theory from the 1990s on. So the cognitive information processing theory is built on my favorite shape, which everyone that ever has met me ever is very aware of my symbol. It's a pyramid. And in order to build a pyramid, you have to start from the bottom and go to the top. So what is involved in the cognitive information processing theory? What do you need to know to make effective career choices? And that is, of course, oh, right, it's a three-dimensional shape. So jokes on me, I always say, okay, yes, I know it's a triangle, but we're going to pretend it's a pyramid. So there's my pyramid. But what you need to know, or the two pieces on the bottom that you have to understand before you can make an effective decision, is self-knowledge, or what do you have to know about yourself? What do you have to know about your options? And once you have those two pieces, you can make effective decisions. And your metacognition is simply how you think about your career choices. So if they're negative, then you want to reframe them into positive thoughts. So that's just kind of an overview of the theory that we're working off of, but I really want to drill down into the knowledge domain, self-knowledge specifically. So what you need to know about yourself to make effective career choices is your interests, of course. So I'm sure most of you, actually, let's just, for funsies, tell me something you're interested in the chat. Anything. It could be Netflix. It could be food. For me, it's food. But most of us are pretty aware of what we're interested in and what we like to do. I think one of the most common pieces of career advice that I hear people giving is just do what you like and you'll never work a day in your life. But that's only one piece. In addition to understanding what you like, which is quite colorful in the chat here, books, banana bread, zucchini bread also, I hope. I love it. Comic books, super. In addition to those interests, you also have skills, and they can look all different from all different industries. It could be collaboration, it could be leadership, it could be technical skills or languages or software systems or anything. And people are, for the most part, aware of what they're good at and are able to speak to it along with their interests. But the one piece that we're here to talk about today that most people don't talk about when they're thinking about how to approach the job search or how to pick an occupation that they're going to find job satisfaction in are career values. And I mean that not in a morals and values type of way, but in a what do you need in your day-to-day to feel good about what you're doing? And what is it about you that you can utilize and match with the company that will give you that satisfaction? So values are things like having autonomy or independence to do the things that you need to do without micromanagement or overlooking. Some people are very adverse to stress, or they're high stress in one way or another. So avoiding stressful situations may be something that's important to you. Working for a company that celebrates diversity, having prestige, making a whole lot of money. Those are all different types of values, and all of us are individuals who have a different goal and different values in order to feel satisfied. So for me, I always use this as an example. I'm clearly wearing a backwards hat right now and a t-shirt. In the corporate world, that was definitely a no-no. You could not wear a t-shirt and a backwards hat to work. So one of my career values is being able to dress however I want. And I have that with Lighthouse Labs, and I have that in the tech industry. So that is a match between what's important to me and what's important to the company and the industry in which I work. So that's kind of just an overview, like a very surface level of what values are, but we're all here to discover our own values. So this is where we kind of get interactive. And I want to do an activity with you. It's called 5 Alternate Lives. So this is one of my favorite activities as a career counselor, and I utilize it all the time with clients at Lighthouse and otherwise. We get to play with our imaginations a little bit. So I think we're going to utilize the chat so we can do this together because I can't see you. So I want to definitely know what your answers are. And perhaps one of my lovely coworkers will be the example that I can use. But we're all going to pretend that we have been granted 5 lives. We're going to live those 5 lives back to back. And so you know right up that you have this life to live. And when that's over, you've got another and another and another. So we have 5 lives we're going to live. What I want all of you to do is to think about what do you want to be in those 5 lives? And we're not limiting this to an occupation. If you want to be a dragon, you can be a dragon. You can be anything you want in those 5 lives. So I want you to think about that a little bit and tell me in the chat, what do you choose to be in the 5 lives that you've been gifted? What are they? And I will share mine, but I need to marinate on it because it does change somewhat from time to time. It doesn't matter what the order is unless you feel strongly about there being an order, in which case I would ask you, yes, put them in an order, but then tell me why that order. Carly wants to be a dragon. I want to be a dragon too, but I really want you to think about it because you only get 5. So go ahead and give me the 5 all in one chat together, and I'll give you my 5. One of them is a rock star. I definitely wish that I was Mick Jagger or Steven Tyler, I guess would be a better example. And I also want to be an author, a filmmaker, basically anything creative. I think it would be pretty cool to be a wizard as well, or perhaps a paladin, because I do play Dungeons and Dragons and that's fun. But yeah, think about it, decide what are you going to be for those 5 lives.
There are some good ones in the chat already.
I see an artist, a horse, a dancer, a pilot, and a flower. Amazing. Like, I love this activity because it's incredible what people come out with. A Buddhist monk. I love that. A dolphin, a dancer, an actor, a unicorn. Coffee shop owner, organic farmer. Cool. Professional tennis. A member of the X-Men. Okay, I have to know which member now, Paolo.
I would say Storm, and I think I could help make it good weather for everyone. So you would all benefit from me being Storm as well.
Vancouver would certainly benefit from good weather, and Victoria, British Columbia as a whole. A dog, a cat, a Nobel Prize winner, astronaut, CEO. Fire. That's awesome. These are great. I won't know when everyone's done, Caroline, so if you could tell me when the chat stops, that would be great. But
good. I think my favorite so far is Oprah's best friend, Gail.
Yes, that's a fantastic. Winery owner. Oh, Matt, yes. An alien. Okay, come on. You know I love the X-Files. Paolo's just giving me answers that I like.
It's the truth. I promise it's the truth. It would be so cool.
Okay,
I think
slow down. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, so there's a rhyme and a reason behind this. So you get these 5 lives and you get to be whatever you want. But the piece that's going to lead us down the road to career values and lead me to teaching you how you can use those career values to find a career that works for you is to go back to those 5 lives that you told me about in the chat. Or if you didn't, I still want you to consider those 5 lives. And I want you to give yourself the why. And in the chat too. Yes, you want to be a ballerina, but why? Why do you want to be a ballerina? Why did you choose to be a cat? Why did you choose to be a Nobel Prize winner, which is great? What would that Nobel Prize be in? I want to know the why behind your choices. So that's step 2 in the chat. Tell me why dolphin, why Oscar-winning actress, why coffee shop owner. Tell me all the whys. I'm still getting used to this whole like speaking into the void. As a teacher, I'm used to being able to see everyone in front of me. So it's always interesting to utilize chats. Coffee shop owner, lots of coffee, creativity, connecting with others. Nice, Caroline. I want to be a rock star because I want to be famous and I want to make music and be able to work whenever I want and not have a set 9-to-5 schedule. That's why I chose Rockstar, for what it's worth. Very passionate about the sport. These are great. Freedom and flexibility, says Justine. Who is David Gilmour? Do I live under a rock? Or who is David Gilmour? Can someone tell me who David Gilmour is? Being creative. I recently went horseback riding. Okay. Awesome. Stephanie, you're a fascinating human being. I would love to meet you for coffee someday. Excellent. Pink Floyd's guitarist. I should have known that. I even have Pink Floyd shirts. Now I feel like a bad fan. Okay. A cat and a dog to compare who has the better life. Nobel Prize for polymers. Oh, interesting, Keaton. Buddha, because they have peace in their minds and they're not materialistic. Dolphin, because they are free in the ocean and they are friendly. Yes, dolphins are actually quite smart as well. That was my childhood animal that I chose to worship. Like some people had horses, some people had dogs. I had dolphins. Dolphins were my thing. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of this in the chat, the whys, but I think if I could use perhaps Caroline or Paolo as an example, we can go over this together. I don't know which one of you would like to do it, but whichever one. Perhaps Storm from the X-Men, so Caroline can monitor the chat.
Sure, definitely.
Okay, so I want to do this with Paolo out loud so that you all can really get the whys and how this works and how we're going to move forward with what you're learning from this. So Paolo, what is the first life that you chose to live?
I chose to be a professional tennis player.
Okay, and why do you want to be a professional tennis player?
Even now, like, as I love being in this workshop right now, but if I could be playing tennis right now, I would probably be doing that. So I would love to do it every day and in a new environment, but like have that be my consistent thing. I don't think I would get sick of it, and it would be exciting.
So the tennis piece is the consistency for you, but the flexibility of it being in differing locations at differing times, that's the attractiveness.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, yeah.
That's good. I mean, that says a lot about you, just in that one. But let's hear the next one too.
About the X-Men. Why I want to be part of the X-Men.
Why do you want to be Storm?
Storm specifically.
Well, you said Storm.
Okay, yeah. I just want to be an X-Men, even if I didn't have the best powers, just because I love the impact they make on making the world a bit of a better place. Storm, I just think she's phenomenal. So if I could embody her epicness, that would be amazing. But if I was a low-rung X-Men character, that's still, I appreciate the cause, so that's okay too.
Okay. So these are great examples, Paolo, by the way. But as you are listening and thinking about why you want to be the things that you chose, with tennis, Paolo said, okay, I want one thing to be consistent, but I'm not a super fan of being in the same place at the same time. That translates to a career value in that there's not total chaos, that Paolo doesn't want to be in total chaos. He wants to have something that remains the same. Perhaps that's his duties at work, but the flexibility of being remote and working wherever he wants, that is a piece that connects to why you may want to be a tennis player. So it's not necessarily just the tennis that's the value. It's the why behind the tennis. So the same thing with Storm. I noticed you said, and I've seen this in the chat too, this theme of wanting to impact the world in a good way. That's a career value, contributing to society. If that's important to you as an individual, or that's a reason why you chose one of the 5 alternate lives that you chose, then you're going to want to work for a company that's having a positive impact in some way, whether it's sustainability or combating global warming, contributing to the greater good is a career value. If that's important to you, then you wouldn't be satisfied working for a company that is negatively affecting the world, in your opinion. I'll use myself as an example here. I worked for Lockheed Martin. If you're not familiar with Lockheed Martin, it is a defense company in the States that builds military weapons, which does not align with my worldview at all. But here I am going to work every day buying parts that make missiles. That is a disconnect between what I value as a human being and what the company values. And it made me terribly dissatisfied in my position, regardless of the money I was making, etc. So we've got 2 so far for you, Paolo. Flexibility in location and contributing to the greater good. So what's the third alternate life?
I think the third one was being Gail, Oprah's best friend.
Why do you want to be Oprah's best friend?
I would just love to be in very close proximity to Oprah. I weirdly don't want to be Oprah. I want to be around her because I feel like she's very calming and enlightening. And so I would appreciate having her perspective added to my life whenever I wanted it.
So this is an interesting one because inherently probably no career values pop out at anyone when they're listening to you say that. But what I'm hearing is you want to support Oprah, you believe in what Oprah's doing, but you don't want to be Oprah. So
Right.
that tells me that you want to influence an important person or a leader, but not necessarily be one, which is very fascinating and interesting to me. So perhaps you wouldn't want to be the CEO, but you would want to be the CEO's advisor. So have the influence, but not have the fame or the face.
Absolutely not. Yeah, definitely.
That is inherently a career value by knowing that you don't want to be the leader, but you want to advise the leader. Then you probably wouldn't be happy in like a place where, let's say, you're doing press releases in front of hundreds of people, but the person who writes the press release, perhaps that may be a better fit for you. Would you say that's true?
Absolutely. I don't want to be the face of anything.
But you still want the influence. So that's the
Yeah.
key here. And I'm seeing this too in some of the chat. There's a theme across the reasons why you're choosing these 5 alternate lives. I see a lot of spirituality with the monk and the Buddhist. I'm seeing money, of course. I think that's the go-to career value that everyone understands is a career value, but it's not necessarily yours. So that was a misunderstanding for me when I went into the world of work, because my parents, they were quite academic and they went into the corporate world and made a lot of money. And I thought, well, that's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm supposed to want. I'm supposed to want to make a lot of money, but I was making a lot of money and I was quite miserable. And that's because my career values weren't being met. I wasn't getting the things that I needed. So Paulo, we have 3 so far. He wants to advise and wants to be an agent of influence, but not the face of it. Wants flexibility in location, but steadiness in actual tasks. Right. And then, of course, affect the weather, but really contribute to the greater good. Yes. So I'm hoping that this is helping all of you who are listening go back and look at your own answers. I am looking at the chat. I don't want to necessarily call anyone out unless there's someone that would like to be called out. I would love to do this with them. But starting to look at why you want to be a dog or why you want to be a cat. I think I saw in the chat that the reason was to see who has the better life. Which is a very fascinating answer. Like, I want to be a dog and then a cat, so I can finally answer, like, who's happier? But that is a total analytical, research-oriented way to approach that problem. So perhaps solutions, like being a part of problem solving, is important for you in your career, or research, or both. So that was definitely interesting. And a time traveler, that's awesome too. Why a time traveler? So you can see all the different options. But yeah, definitely if you'd like me to go through them with you, I will. But I do want to finish up Paulo's, and then I do want to show you all what you can do with these values, and how you can look at how they translate into different positions. So we do have like a resource called ONET Online that I'm going to go through. We'll get there. But Jennifer wants to be a time traveler. Everybody wants. That's like the new thing right now, time traveling. So why time traveling? Jennifer, if you don't mind me calling you out, tell me why you want to be a time traveler in the chat or on your mic, but you are being recorded.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
I just heard that and I was like, oh, okay, that would be nice to like being in like different places, different times. I would like to see the dinosaurs. I think.
Why the dinosaurs?
I think they're really impressive, like big. It was just nature. They were just like living life.
Is that something that you wish you could do?
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate you volunteering. And also you'd have to tell me if they have feathers or not, because I'm quite curious about that. But something you said in the very beginning kind of matched with what Paulo was saying about tennis. It seems to me that you're attracted to the dinosaurs and to being a time traveler for the flexibility of being able to go where you want, when you want. Would you say that's true?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
as a
can't stay like in the same place for a long time. I get bored.
But that's good to know. And that's a career value too. So especially in the world of work we're in now, there's a lot of remote opportunities. So that could give you the flexibility to be where you want to be. And that's a career value. So
Ooh.
that's kind of what I'm going for is you look at these 5 lives, connect them back to what's the core of why you want to be that thing. And that's what you can translate into your career path. So I wish that you could be a time traveler, Jennifer, and that everybody that wanted to be a time traveler could be, and perhaps in the future. But in lieu of actually being a time traveler or a tennis player or Oprah's best friend, Gail, you can take those core reasons why and actually achieve them in your career. So obviously you can't put in a search box, I want to be a time traveler. What career can I get from that? But you can start looking at autonomy, if independence is what you want, or freedom to be where you want, when you want. That's remote work, but there's more to it than that. If you want to contribute to the greater good, if you want prestige, some people just want to be respected. They want to be in a job that commands the respect of society, like a doctor. That's good too. Like if that was your reason for wanting to be a rock star like me, yeah, I want prestige. I'm not ashamed to say that. Like I want people to look at me like I'm important. And I understand that that sounds bad, but it's true for me. And I have to acknowledge that as a person. Like I desire people to tell me that I'm good at something. That's what I want. And if I'm missing that in my career, then I'm unhappy. And so I want to translate this back, of course, how you can utilize these career values. Something that's happening in the world of work and has been for the last 5 years or so is this massive shift away from these are my skills and I can do this job into this is what my company is all about. Do you fit into it? The organizational culture fit is what employers are gravitating towards even more than skills. They want your passion and they want to know if you're going to fit into their company culture. But at the same time, when you're in that interview process, yes, the employer is looking at you. Can you do this job? Do you fit as a person into the culture of my company? But you're on the other side of the table. And I think this gets lost in translation a lot. You are also there to determine if that company is going to give you what you need. It's not just a one-sided conversation. So they're looking at you, yes, but you're looking at them. You're looking at whether they're going to be able to provide the things you want from those 5 different lives that we just went through. So if your passion is contributing to the good, the greater good of the world, and you're in Calgary working for oil and gas, and you want to save the world and prevent global warming, is that a good fit for you? That's something that you're considering. You don't want to put yourself into a job that's going to make you unhappy. And I think understanding what would make you unhappy is how you're going to pave a career path. You won't necessarily get all of those 5 alternate live values in your very first job in an industry, but you can certainly get 1 or 2. And then you can start orienting yourself towards companies who have the same values that you do. So if you know already, like me, that you want prestige for some reason, like I do, I want someone to pat me on the back and tell me I'm doing a good job. If my manager is not doing that, I'm not going to be satisfied. So that's a conversation I need to have. And there are questions that you can ask in an interview process that are going to tell you this before you start. Like, what is your management style? If I ask that in an interview, that's going to give me an answer as to whether it's going to fit my value of needing positive reinforcement and feedback. You can also ask to describe the company's organizational culture. Like, can you describe your organizational culture to me? And you'll get a lot out of that to see if they're all about contributing to local markets. I think that was one of the values of my students. Like, I want them to be involved in the community locally and doing positive things and being involved in those types of activities. You can ask those questions and lead with those questions in an interview. So I know I said I was going to show you how to translate values into different career paths, but I think it's really important to emphasize that interview process for you is a two-way street. And you need to be looking at whether you want to work there just as much as they're looking at whether they want you to work there. Okay, back on track. I know I promised I would show you a tool where you can use these career values. So we're going to do that. And then I'm going to leave it open for questions, right? Caroline, we're doing that. And then we'll wrap it up. But now we've gone through, we have these values. I'm going to use Jennifer's, if that's okay, like as an example, and Paulo's. You can take those values to a website. It's my favorite website, even though it doesn't have a pyramid. Let me just open it and then I will share my screen. It's called onetonline.org. And 1 second. All right, share screen. Boom. Hopefully everyone can see the beautiful ONET Online. Yes, okay. ONET Online is a massive database that's updated yearly in the States via the census. Okay, so basically they're surveying everyone in the world of work every year to get all this information, and it's compiled all in one place, and you can utilize it for a lot of things, but I want to show you specifically that you can actually browse by work values. So if you choose work values as a search option, you can see the categories here are divided out, and they talk about and speak to those career values that you just utilized your 5 alternate lives to discover. So achievement, which I've said multiple times is mine, achievement-oriented people or folks who want ability utilization and to be recognized for what they do, they can click achievement. Independence, I'm gonna click on that one because both Jennifer and Paolo indicated that they like autonomy and flexibility to be where they wanna be when they wanna be there. So if that is also a value for you, you can choose independence as your first work value. You also have the option to add a couple more to further narrow down the different types of careers that match with that value. So it gives you a whole bunch of options. This is where you can narrow it down by your own education and experience. So your job zone here, the years of experience and education are indicated by the number. So if you have a bachelor's degree, that is a level 4 years of school, level 4 job. These are all the jobs that match the independence value that require a bachelor's degree to have. You can do the same thing with a graduate degree or high school or community college or an associate's degree, or you can just look at all of them because why limit your options on the first swing? That is how you can, I love you so much right now. I love you too. Okay, that is how you can go through all of these different paths, career paths, occupations that match with the values that we've just discovered together here. So because we're Lighthouse Labs, we're a tech company and we have a web development boot camp, I am going to go with web developer because I know that independence is the #1 value for a web developer. If you open the career path that you've discovered via your values, you're going to get a wealth of information. So once you open up an occupation, click on the details tab. There are tons of tips and tricks I'm going to give you here. Not all of them are related to values, but I want you to know them anyway. For all of you who struggle with bullets on your resume, look up your job title on this website, click on the plus under tasks, and you have bullets right here in the correct format that are core and supplemental to the job. So that's always fun. If you're building a resume, you can come in here and look at what your job has tasks-wise, and then include like numeric and quantifiable information within those bullets. But another piece of this is if you're looking at possible career paths via your value, these tasks are in order of importance or the frequency with which you're doing that thing. So I see laughter. Am I missing things in chat?
Someone
Okay, yeah.
made a brilliant love at first sight pun, which I just feel like you and who is that person? Kaylee will get along very well.
Of course, yes, I have a terrible sense of humor. But I'm glad that I cannot emphasize enough how much you can use this site for your job, for job seeking, for professional development, for anything really. And I'm going to show you all the pieces that are valuable, but this is the first. So before you even scroll down to work values, you can determine based on the core tasks of this job. So for a web developer, the #1 most important task is writing supporting code for web applications or websites. if offhand, like inherently, the first thing you think when you read the number one task for a job is, oh gosh, I don't want to do that, that is clearly not the job for you. So I'd start with the tasks, take a look, utilize them for resumes. But wait, there's more. There's a ton more. You've got your tech stack, tech skills that are necessary, the tools that you use, knowledge, etc. But I want to focus next on the work context. So this is something that you can't generally find anywhere without actually talking to a person in this job, except for ONET Online. So if you click the plus, every single job that's in this database that is asked yearly about all these things has the same 57 work context pieces. So it's very easy to compare one job to another in each one of these areas. So I think something that's very interesting, if work-life balance is very important to you and you never want to be working more than 40 hours a week, you can actually see here on ONET the number of hours that each of these positions is working, and see that 63% of web developers are working more than 40 hours a week. There's a good chance that you, if you decide to become a web developer, will be working more than 60 hours a week or 40 hours a week. So that's something to consider, again, matching it up with your career values and what you want as a human being to feel satisfied with your job. If you don't really like face-to-face discussions like my brother, who's the antithesis of me, I want to be talking to people every day and he doesn't. So here, it's noted that as a web developer, you're likely talking to a team every single day. There are other positions I know offhand, like accounting, for instance, who don't often have face-to-face discussions. So that's something. I'm going to call back to Paulo here, who said he wants to influence, but he doesn't want to be the face. So one of these contexts is actually public speaking. So you can know if you're ever going to really have to speak to the public in this type of position. And if that's not something that you want to do, then then you don't want to do that particular position. One of my favorites in here, here's the public speaking in case anyone is curious. So Paulo, you're safe as a web developer. Only 17% do once a month speak to a team, and 29% is never. So I think you're pretty safe as a web developer not doing any public speaking. But one of my favorites is exposed to contaminants like pollutants and gas. And there's also like a nuclear exposure option. So anyway, wanted to show you this because it's a really awesome tool to give you information that you wouldn't normally get without actually talking to someone in this position. And given that it's the same 57 for every single job, you can really compare and contrast based on the values from your 5 alternate lives. And then, of course, there is the education section. So this will tell you the percentage of folks in this particular position that have X level of education. So you can see at this point, only 46% have a bachelor's degree, which means 54% have less. So it's probably okay and relatively easy for you to get into this position without a bachelor's degree. And we know that here at Lighthouse Labs because we send wonderful web developers out into the world of work all the time. But if you're looking at something like a nuclear physicist, you're likely going to be required to have a PhD or a master's. So that's something important to take a look at. That'll give you an idea of what you need to do to get to this job if you want it. And then, of course, your work values are here. So it ranks them in the order of importance. So in this case, if independence is your top value, you want that autonomy, you want that remote flexibility option, or you're Jennifer or Paulo with tennis and dinosaurs, this is a good match because independence is the #1 top work value for a web developer. Whereas in my case, like relationships and being social are quite important to me, and that is the bottom here. So if you are looking to collaborate and be social with your team and perhaps help people more along the lines of like what I do as a counselor, this might not be a good match for you. And then we have what I like to call the YouTube section, because you know you go on YouTube and you watch a video and then another and another and another, and then you're for some reason watching a live feed of a funeral home and you don't know how you got there. This is the rabbit hole on ONET. So all of these occupations here are related in one way or another to web developer. So you can go and explore careers that are related to and see which one fits best and continue down that rabbit hole path until you're at a career you possibly never even thought of. The sunshine, in case you're curious, means bright outlook. Another cool thing about ONET is it actually tells you the projected growth of the position. So if it's growing faster than average, that's a good sign. It means it'll be relatively easy for you to find a job in that area. If it's bookkeeping, I can tell you it's on a decline of like 10%. So that's going to make it more difficult for you. And also the green is the sustainability. So if saving the environment is something important to you, then you can look at just straight up green jobs. So I know I said I was going to leave some time. We have 15 minutes. I will stop there, but I really wanted to show you ONET Online because I really think it's a super valuable tool that most people don't know exists. So now that you know it exists, you can use it to try and define the direction that you're going to go and how you're going to pave your career path based on a really strange but fun activity of having a genie give you 5 lives. So work values, hopefully you have a better idea of how you can start constructing what the most important work values are for you and utilize ONET and other types of tools to connect those work values with positions, careers, opportunities, and industries that match what's going to keep you satisfied and happy in your job. Because, hey, this is 2020, and I don't know how many millennials are in here or zennials or even Gen Z, but we much more care about being satisfied in our job than our predecessors before us. So if you can find that in your career path, then it will lead you to a satisfying place. And hey, we spend most of our time sleeping or at work. So why not be satisfied with it, is what I say. So that's the end. I mean, it's not the end, but I'm going to stop talking now and give everyone an opportunity to ask questions. And I think Caroline also has some things to say at the very end. So please, if anyone in here has any questions for me at all, I'd be happy to answer them, even if it's unrelated. Ask me anything. We're Reddit AMAing.
Kelly, there's someone in the chat just looking to pull up the pyramid again.
Yes, of course.
Just while questions are coming in, maybe we could have that up there. But yeah, definitely everyone ask any questions you have about what we talked about today, but also bearing in mind that, again, Kelly is the Career Services Manager for Lighthouse. So if you do have any questions or you're considering a Lighthouse program about career services here, she's also a wealth of knowledge on that front. So definitely turn on your mics or drop it in the chat, and we'll hang out here for a bit.
Okay, the pyramid is coming.
And so there's one question in the chat, and I think it's a really good one. Any advice to those of us that totally blanked during the 5 Lives activity?
Yes, the activity was simple. Just imagine a genie has granted you 5 lives that you can live one right after the other, and you could be anything you want in those 5 lives. Like you could be a flower, or you could be Mick Jagger, or you could be a dragon. I like to come back to the dragon because that's just my favorite. But if you can figure out what you would want to be for those 5 lives, the next question to ask yourself is why? Why do I want to be that thing? Why are these the 5 options I've chosen if I'm only given 5? And once you know the why do you want to be, like for me, why do I want to be a rock star? Well, I want the notoriety, I want the flexibility, and I want the creativity to make music. Once you have the why for those 5 things you've chosen, those whys translate into your work values. So yes, you might want to be a dragon or a wizard or a paladin or a flower. But the reason why you want to be that thing translates back into what is going to keep you satisfied in a job. So if you want to be a flower because you don't want to worry about anything and you want to do what you want, that translates into flexibility at work. Like flexibility is one of the most important career values now, given that COVID happened. We were all kind of forced to be flexible at work. So if that was a career value for you, you might be satisfied now more so than you were. But that was the 5 alternate lives activities. So if you can really nail down why you'd want to be those 5 things, the why is what's going to lead you to your work values or career values, so to speak.
I think, Kelly, and I don't know, maybe to expand on that question, what if you are thinking about those 5 lives and you can't come up with a good idea of what those different lives would look like, or you can't come up with any ideas for what that those lives would look like, do you have any advice for like how to sort of think about it, how to come up with those ideas?
Absolutely. If you Google search career values activities, the #1 result will be an exercise from Berkeley that will give you a list of different types of career values. So there are different ways to discover this. If you're not as imaginative as I am, and you don't want to think about being a dragon, you can look at a list of things such as autonomy or prestige or routine. Some people are really driven to have the same routine day in and day out, and that's a relaxation of stress for them. Other people are anti-routine and don't want to do the same thing day in and day out. So I think if you can't think of 5 alternate lives, or the idea of a genie is like, then you can definitely take a look at Berkeley's list and decide which ones match you. And of course, we all utilize our own experiences to make choices in life. So your experience and your past positions in the world of work will probably lead you down a path of what you don't like, which is also just as important. So if you know what you really, really loathe to do, then you can avoid having to do that. For me, it's dressing up, which is not, some people don't care one way or the other whether they have to dress up nice or not, but I certainly do. So knowing that, I will never put myself in a position that's going to make me do that, which is also important. In addition to knowing what you want, knowing the career values you don't want can be helpful as well. So utilizing your own past experiences and that list that Berkeley has, I think I can throw it in the chat if I can find it. And I know I said I would share the pyramid screen, so let me do that too.
Yeah, Lanisa, you can turn your mic on and ask your question if you want.
Hey, so I really enjoyed the workshop. I thought it was super interesting and it really spoke to me on a lot of different levels. I would have a question in regard to, like, let's say once you have all your values set out, like let's say you go through that exercise and then you know kind of what you want and what you don't want. For people who are like entering into the workforce, or maybe if they're already in a job, where they feel like their values aren't being met, how do you suggest, like for example, you were giving the example of for you being able to dress up the way you want is something super important. For other people, it might be flexibility. Like, how would you suggest people finding the right type of jobs like that, or even in an interview, kind of relaying the things they want without coming off as too demanding or something, you know?
I was muted. So I think I heard a couple questions kind of
Yeah,
wrapped
that's
up in there.
why I turned it back off.
No, it's totally fine. I think the first one I can key in on is the interviewing one. Something that we emphasize to our students at Lighthouse Labs, and I emphasize just to the world in general as a career counselor, is you're always given the opportunity to ask questions at the end of an interview. And if you target those questions, like asking, can you describe a day in the life of this position? You're going to get information that wouldn't necessarily be given to you any other way. So if you're asking the manager, whoever's interviewing you, can you describe a day in the life of a web developer at this company? They're going to give you a pretty good insight into what your day-to-day is going to look like. In addition to that, you can ask them to describe their organizational culture. If you have a very particular management style that you need, like I cannot be micromanaged, it just drives me crazy. So I like to ask, what is your management style? So I can get an idea of how I'm going to be managed. So there are targeted questions that you can ask in an interview that I highly suggest you do. At the end, I would say at least 2, but no more than 4 questions that can give you those answers, because it is hard to gauge what a company's organizational culture is before you're actually in it. So the more pieces of information you can give yourself to determine whether it's going to be satisfying for you to work there or not, the better. In addition to asking questions in interviews, you can glean that type of information from their website and from the folks who work there on LinkedIn. So at Lighthouse, I'll use us as an example. If you go to our website and you look at our team, it says our team of weirdos. that gives you a pretty good look inside of Lighthouse's culture, just based on the fact that that language was used to describe our team. So in addition to asking questions in the interview, you can look at the website, you can reach out for information interviews to folks on LinkedIn that are connected to that company, and ask those types of questions as well. I think that was one of your questions, but not all of them. What was another?
I can't even really remember now, but that's actually pretty that's pretty interesting. I really like I had never really thought of that, like asking targeted. I mean, of course I had always asked questions in interviews, but never like targeted questions like that can kind of give you a sense of what the culture and everything is like. So that's really cool. I think my other question was if somebody's already working in a company, let's say, where their values aren't being met, if you think they can bring that forth, you know.
Yes, that is the tougher of the two. It's easier to try and figure out what you're getting into before you get into it. But if you have an epiphany like me and you realize this is not meeting any of my values, then there are a couple of different paths to take. I think if you enjoy your team and you enjoy where you work and you're just lacking something, then talking to your manager, depending on what that thing is. For me, it was simple. Like, I wasn't getting feedback that I wanted, so I simply asked for it, and now I have it. So if it's an easy fix like that, and it's just minor piece of the overall situation that you're in, I would talk to your team and talk to your manager about how you could adjust to more fit into what you're needing on your side and what they need from their side. But if you do hit a point where there's just a total clash and you can't really see a way to match your values with theirs, then perhaps, depending on your individual situation, financially, monetarily, etc., it might be time to think about, can you stay in this industry and work for another company that would give you those values? Or is this just a total disconnect completely and you can never match them? Then where are you going to go from there? And are you comfortable with making a career change? So I think in the second question, it's a lot more of an individual piece of advice. Whereas as a career counselor, I would counsel you through that. But it's hard to give like a blanket answer to how to handle that. But I would start easiest. If you can start with talking to your manager and it can get worked out there, then you don't have to go any further. But if you keep escalating and you're still not getting it, then it may be time to think about, does this industry even match what I want?
Yeah. Okay, cool. Super interesting.
Thanks.
I enjoyed this. Thank you.
Thank you. This is my favorite thing to talk about, so I'm happy.
And there's one last question, and we'll have to probably do a bit of a rapid fire here, but do you have any tips on how to recognize if something is a value of yours or something that is part of your comfort zone that maybe you should be changing or growing out of?
That's good. So much like the Myers-Briggs type indicator, your values probably will change over the course of your career as you change and grow as a person. So I think, again, this is kind of an individualized answer. But if there's something that you don't feel comfortable with, but you feel a drive inside of yourself to become comfortable with it, that may be worth exploring. But if it's something that you're not comfortable with and you have no desire to explore it, then I would say why? Why go for it if you know inherently that you can't have it? And of course, there are always situations where I would have a client say to me, well, I don't value anything. I just don't want to work at all. And I get it. Sometimes we feel like that. We just want to be the flower or the dinosaur that doesn't have to worry about work or anything. But until we completely change as a society, it's a bit of a necessity in our lives. So that's kind of why conversations like these, I think, need to happen a lot more often, because it is something that we have to deal with. And if we know how to approach it and how to make an informed decision, we can get to a point where we're happy and our employer's happy. And that's the best kind of worker. Like, your company wants you to be happy in your job because you're going to produce more and you're going to stay with them and you're going to help them. So it's a symbiotic relationship now. And it's fascinating for me to watch this change and become the focal point of interviews and getting jobs. Is, okay, are these things matching up? Because it's so important. And I don't know why we weren't doing it 20 years ago, but I'm definitely out there talking about it. And I think the more we talk about how the employee is also making a choice to take this job, and getting that in the forefront of people's minds is just going to make the process easier in transitioning to culture fit over hard skills, for instance. I saw Carly asked if I'm available for individual career counseling. I would say perhaps Caroline can give you my email and we'll chat about that. But this isn't about me, it's about Lighthouse. So I do want to let Caroline wrap up.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you so much, Kelly. And thanks everyone for contributing really great questions and career ideas and all that kind of stuff. I do want to just close up by saying we are big on communication at Lighthouse. So definitely send us an email. I'll throw the Career Accelerator email into the chat. And Kelly, if you want to throw your LinkedIn profile in the chat, you can do that as well. But this may have given you a taste into the conversations that Kelly's having with our students in our data science and our web development programs. We're really excited that we get to have these conversations with students that are making career changes every day. So if you are interested in a career in tech, and you're interested in a program like one of the ones that Lighthouse offers, definitely shoot us an email, and we'd love to chat with you. And I will leave it at that. Thank you everyone for coming. Kelly's LinkedIn is in the profile, and I'm sure she wants to give us a big goodbye.
Of course, it's been an absolute pleasure. I love having these conversations, and I'm glad that all of you came, and I hope that it helped you in some way, shape, or form. Like we like to say at Career Services at Lighthouse Labs, we're always here for you, even if it's just for an hour information session. So yeah, thanks for coming and hanging out with me, and I hope all of you have a splendid Wednesday, and you enjoy onetonline.org.
Bye everyone, thanks so much.